Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke reaching out to you to say hi. I'm still working on the Gen 9s, and I thought, well, what the heck, since I haven't given you guys any duration workloads, I thought, well, what the heck, I can show you what this looks like and how I'm doing some of the stuff I'm doing. Kind of like a dismantling strategy. Now, first thing I have to do here before I start working on these electronics is to ground myself out. One of my fellow patrons made it a point to say, hey, you've got to ground yourself. I've done a couple of videos on that, but I do let you know in advance that I do ground myself pretty well when I do this kind of stuff with what's called a static discharge or paint layer. So with that, plus the grounding strips at which I periodically touch, I can keep the electronics pretty much in the clear. A small, tiny detail to note is that if you're carrying a workload voltage on the motherboard, that actually helps keep the consistency and the retention capacity of the motherboards from being fried electronically wise. Something my dad taught me from way back when. But anyways, let me show you what we've got here. I'm going to adjust my camera and you will see what we're looking at. All right. There, yep. Okay, so what I'm basically doing here is this is the freestanding bay, and over here is the release bay. Now the release bay is a manual. I can take it out, and then that allows me to bring the card out. And this is what I'm talking about. It is a PCIe bus. It's got the extended set and it's got the 16 set, and it's going to go right into here. But the problem with that is it's not going to go in because it has an actual blocker section in here made of metal, and I'm going to have to take that out. So to do that correctly, I go over here and I get my hex nut that allows me to take the small screws off. They're very tiny, by the way. Make sure you keep track of them. And this will remove the block plate that is here. And this is the block plate. It's basically, as you can see here, nothing more than a fitter plate. It goes right into place. That plate is going to go over into this other chassis, exactly in the same way I took the old one out. And there you go, that's done. So just to make sure that you don't forget, take the time and put the screws in it so you completed that part of the work. That way you are thorough in how you're doing this. Alright, I've got one screw in, so I'm going to put the other screw in next. And now some people have asked the question, why don't you take the other riser card, which is this one right here, the smaller one. Now let me show you what that looks like, since we have the opportunity to do so. And here it is. In comparison to its larger scale, this one's built for the higher I/O cards, such as video cards, extended RAID controllers, and so on, that require a lot of overhead. This guy, on the other hand, is not that way. It's designed to handle what I call sublet cards, and I'll show you what those look like. They are the reduced PCIe footprint, but they're still full size. But they only have space for this size card only. So it's very important because there's a block right here that prevents you from putting a bigger set in there. That's not the case with the other unit. The other unit is very much functional. Now I am going to move this card from a full-blown full-size PCIe slot down to a 16X because it's just a simple network card. I want to use these guys later for higher-ended cards that have faster bandwidth. Specifically, one of those being an NVMe card. Now I'll show you that in a second, but I have learned with these units that the NVMe card is just that. It's a card. We call it the wild card, but give me just a second, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I'm talking about is this guy right here. is an NVMe PCIe. Very fast card, very functional. And this is one of two. And I've had done plenty of videos on the nature of having dual NVMe's on a slot. One is not truly an NVMe, only one of them is, and the other one is actually SATA. It's just a little bit of a detail that needs to be spoken here because we want to make sure we understand the nature of how it works. But I am now putting the NVMe card in the full PCIe bus 3.0, which is what's so important about this main bus here. Now, if you can see this, you have what I see appears to be an extender set card here. But over on this side, there are two. And unlike the first card set, let me give you an example. Let me show you this. So, and this is where people make serious mistakes because it's not accurate. So look at this. This says PCIe, and it's got the full size port and then one small one. But look at that. That's really what you have. Now, if you know anything about hardware, that seems a little bit limited. Now, if you look at the big one, see the size difference? The card edges is much larger. So I have an independent stack and I have a performance stack. So this guy's independent, he's 16x at best. This guy, he's got everything on it plus 16x. So he needs to have the NVMe on it, in my opinion. That way I'm getting all the bus bandwidth from these riser cards, going forward. People should really take the time to understand how these units talk. Because if they do, they'll discover very quickly how important it is to understand that process. And why do these devices talk like they talk? And like I said, if you look closely here, it will actually tell you on the slots the true ratings of each of them and what generation are they. So in here you can see the IDs really closely here, and they tell you what that generation level is. You want to make sure that you're putting these in the highest level PCI bus you have. This is a problem that I have with Dells. This is a problem I have with my most favorite Dell server, and that is the fact that it is not very friendly when it comes to NVMe cards in regards to how they are supposed to communicate versus how they actually turn out working. And it's kind of a crap shot because some of the cards work well, some of the cards don't. So I've just kind of stepped away from that and used SSD SATAs instead. And that did make a difference. And it's pretty good performance. Now, I am putting this guy back into place. Did that catch? Nope, it did not catch. So let me release that again. Alright, this is a little bit of a challenge here, getting that to slot correctly. It's kind of tight, you know what I mean? Yeah, alright, and I lock it in. And I'll lock this one in. This time they're not bouncing, so that means if these bounce, your lock screws, if they bounce, they are not in place correctly. So you want to make sure that they are. And if they're not, then just open them back up again and push down and lock them in. There should be no give. And your card should be properly seated, but also check the edges down here to make sure that you can confirm those are secured. So I've already transferred one component out of this equation. Another thing I can do is I can take this off. That is the daughterized card that sits in here, and it can come out. It's right there. I see it. I see the screw right there. And this plate, when it comes out, should allow me to be able to put in the daughter bridge card I'll have to check that out to make sure it's right. And I can then later insert, I don't have it yet, so I'm not going to totally take this off just yet, but later I can insert this subcomponent back on the right way so that I can have two 2.5-inch hard drives or SSD SATA drives, and I do like putting one of them in the back for the OS. And the reason why is because I like that better than the other way. There is also an SSD card slot here for a micro SD, which is nice, but it's not nice at the same time. It does work, it's functional, but I don't trust SSD cards in the sense of micro SD. You also have a two dual USB port output here, and one of those gets used by this guy, which is, it has a long cable set in it right here, and it provides the general connectivity for the media station, which is right here. And I also have a DVD kit, cable kit coming, and I also will have a what do you call it? A DVD, an HP DVD burner drive, just because I do like to use backups, and a lot of times it's easier just to plop in a DVD and make a quick backup of the operating environment or key data files on the fly. So the next thing that needs to come out, of course, is the CPUs, which I'm not going to cover in this because I've done that so many times, it's not even funny. And I have to clean them and prepare them and make sure that everything is correct. But I will put the media box station in because I want to get that going. So let me reorientate the camera here so you can see the front part. And again, you're going to have screw mounts, one here, and that will come out. Alright, and that's out, and I think there are, let me see, yeah, there are two screws underneath. Nope, no, actually they're not. It's just that it's sleeved. Okay, so I'm going to use my screwdriver to help unsleeve it. That makes no sense. And it's out. So if you look, these faceplates are valuable actually, because people have Gen 9s and they want to kind of free up some of their bays. They're sleeved. So if you look here, here's the sleeves, 3 of them. And then up here is the screws, the screw mounts. Now this new unit has to go in as follows. Okay, give me a second here while I check some. Okay, that's good. So here are my cable sets here. So I know that one of my cable sets are going to go right over to the USB port here. So that's going to be this cable. And he is designed specifically to travel to make that connection. The other one is going to be my output set. So I am checking that now to confirm that is correct. Yes, that is a match. Wow, that's quite a reach. Huh. I will have to confirm that. And it looks like it's right. Let me check. You have to be careful. If they don't fit perfectly and slip right into their slots correctly, then they are going to become damaged, and you don't want to do that. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the bus. This is your fan bus. There are all the fans. So I'm going to put that right there. There is a cable guide right down the side here, and you'll need to also pull off your face shield, as I've done. And then you want to properly route your cable through the fit. And it's kind of snug of a fit, in my opinion. And then this guy is supposed to go on here. You know what? I'm gonna pull you off. Just get you out of the equation. Yeah, that's better. So right back here to the back is where this belongs. At least it should be. You just have to have it properly keyed so it goes on right. Is that it? That's it. Hang on a second here while I get this out. Okay, that's not it. Okay, good. That had me worried there for a second. Put that back on. Come on. What a pain in the butt. Okay, that's back in. Alright, so that means you've got to be, yeah, that's it. I think that is it. I just have to be more assertive in getting it to connect. Okay, it did. Okay, very good. So now I do recommend, I've learned a lesson with these bloody cables, that they don't like to go in together very well. They fight you, and that's okay. But they will capitulate, I promise. And okay, so this is done. And that one cable set has been put in place. Now the next cable set will be for the USB port, which goes right into here. And I'm going to go low on this one so that it is correctly configured, but also routing that cable. Got to play with the cable a little bit, because the less resistance the cable is, the better it's going to stay in place. Make sense? So, there. Got it. Alright, so with that, remember your cable guides sometimes will bulge out. And let me show you what I'm referring to. Down here, here is your footprint that you're looking at. And this is the cable I was talking about. Now, I'm going to stick this right here for now, but I suspect I'm going to have to move that again. There's the cable track. It's a piece of plastic and it bulges a little. Over here, you notice it doesn't bulge. The space fittings here for your memory are kind of tight. And with that being said, it has its own challenges, and it needs to have the proper airflow. So you really need to work on these channel guards to make sure that they fit correctly, because that one right there is bowed. So I'll put this back over here. Double O double one. You're probably getting a kick out of this because I'm taking the time to do it this way. One other thing it's important to notice that the heat sinks for these guys are more commonized than the heat sinks for the other unit. And what I mean by that is if I go over here and I take the cover off, look at those heat sinks. These are higher ratio heat sinks versus the passive heat sinks. That's because these have the 2620s on them. They don't get too hot. So they obviously took the time to put a lesser quality heatsink on there to do the job. Over here, if they couldn't do that, they had to have a solution that would do what they needed. So hence the mindset. It's important to see those differences because you want to transfer those heat sinks over off of here, from over here, move these guys over there and keep them apples to apples, because you do not want a poor response heatsink to what you're doing. So for now, the second thing I'm going to do, first I'm going to confirm that my bay is in place and is working. I'm going to put my security screw in. Okay, so the media bay is now locked into place. It won't come out. That's good. Though I'll probably have to take that back out later when I put the DVD drive in it. So now I'm going to take my torque. I'm going to do this now, even though I'm not really a fan of doing it. I will do it anyways. I will take the heat sinks off. Let's see what torques it is at. And that will allow me to, well, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, you'd think if I had the standard I would do it. I thought I had it here. Let me see if this one will do it. Yep. Alright. So, I am going to go ahead and take these heat sinks off. I should have one that fits this. Let me see. They changed the class on that one? Nope, they didn't. Okay, so let's just do this. I'll use a standard screwdriver. Should be able to take it off just fine. This one will work this will do just fine. Yeah. Huh. Slightly too big. Okay, so I brought out my HP screwdrivers. Should do this just perfect. Yep. It pays to have the right tool. So we'll take these guys off. Now, for now, I'm just going to swap these out only. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because before I power them up, I'm going to properly clean the CPUs. Use a purifier on the surface area, make sure it's in the clear, and then at that point in stage, there it is, it will be good to go. So, 1, 2, whew, that is scary, let me tell you. Alright. So there's the processor. Needs to be cleaned, like I said. He's going to go here. And then over here, I'm going to go ahead and clear this CPU. Huh. That one was not on very well. I wonder why. Oh, wow. Okay. That's why. All right. Let's check this one. All right, there's the high performance CPU. All right. One, and then two. All right. Now, this one that I'm taking out does not have a slide tray in it, which means that the CPU is just sitting in the socket. Because of that, I'm going to remove that. There it is. That is the CPU, as is. And this is the tray slot for the CPU. Now, tray slots are a little different, but they are functional. So I can take this guy and bring him over here, because he is the processor I want, the processor class I want, and this one is the one I don't want. Even though I have more of these than the other, I still will take the time to get myself another one of these processors for the future. So I always do one processor at a time, and I'm going to put the one that was on this back on this one. So the thermal tape, remember, like I said, I'm going to be working on these guys later. Okay, so if you look now, all I have now is one processor stack. I'll put the second one in here shortly. Get that set up. Now my challenge here, since I only have one processor stack, is you need to make sure it goes into CPU 1 slot. Now that's clearly identified here on the motherboard, but a lot of people don't think to look at that. And that's kind of a mistake. You don't want to do that. Another mistake you don't want to do is you do not want to leave your processor ZIF socket. That's the one with all the millions and millions of little pins. You do not want those to be exposed for a long period of time. And the principal reason why is because of the principal worry, and it's a very legitimate worry, that you're going to damage the pins. So at a minimum, even if you don't have anything in there, here we go, put the heatsink over the top to act as a cover to protect it effectively, so that you're all right. Does that make sense? And then at that point in stage, your bay stays healthy. Too many people make the mistake of leaving it open because they like the shape and the clarity of the how it looks. I'm like, no, you don't want to do that. You want those pins to stay out of sight as much as possible. Take a picture and put it on your wall. How's that sound? But this guy is now ready to be SMP dual processor, but my other platform will not be, because of the fact that it is dealing with a single processor, which I'll have to clean this processor completely. And I'll probably get the slide tray. That's the little purple, what looks like a purple wraparound on it. Come on, get in there. Jeez. That's good enough for now. So, all in all though, you're going to be putting this in, and it will do pretty much what you need it to do. Make sure it's a perfect fit. You know, that way your dots are in the right places and everything is coming over correctly. And then drop down and secure your processor. And that is done. Put your heatsink on and secure. Remember when you put the heatsink on that you do it crosswise. Do 3 to 4 turns and go to the opposite side, do 3 to 4 turns and rinse and repeat until all your screws evenly tighten down. Alright, so apparently the thermal tape that was used on these original processors are getting in the way of things. I don't like that. And since they're thermoconductive, that means they're conductive. So give me a second. You have to make sure all of the old thermal paste is cleared. Yeah. So I don't need to tell you that you need to use what's called basically inert gas electronic compounds for your electronic cleaning. Compressed air is not necessarily the best thing in the world for electronics. Inert gas compounds are the better ones. I'm going to go ahead and put this I/O bus back in. Okay, that's good, that's good. Now, technically speaking, this motherboard can only run with a single processor because I don't have the second processor. But I do have memory on both sides, so this is not going to boot as is. This will have to come out, or I can move it over here and add it to this guy and just let him run for test mode. But I'm going to go ahead and get my second processor taken care of first. And I know how to do it, and I know how to do it for free, because it was sold to me with 2 processors, but I have only 1. So I'll reach out to the manufacturer, the reseller, to get the other processor. And hopefully it should be for free. So that's okay. Now, what I'm doing next is I'm going to complete it and protect it like I told you. I'm going to put the heatsink on it to make sure that it's in the clear. So here's the second heatsink right here. It's clean. And you don't have to kill yourself on this because there's nothing underneath it to push back. So it's going to go in real easy. Just as a heads up. Okay, so we have basically taken most of the good parts from this and we put it over into this and gutted it out considerably, but yet I have this one ready to be sold and it's still functional. It's actually more functional because it has 2 processors on board than it was when I got it initially. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy up. Oh, look at that. Hang on a second. Apparently it's not working right. The tiny things that always get in your way, right? All right. Why isn't that fitting right? Oh, well, it was right. Okay. Okay, that was the resistance. It was off. Okay, so that's why it didn't work right. Okay. Couldn't figure out what the heck was going on there for a second. But if the processors don't push back correctly, then that's going to create a problem for you. Now there's something else that you might want to note about, and I'll show you what it is. That if you look right here, you have a bus communication, which is like a power supply output that goes right to here. Okay, so that's power. And over here, you have the power output here, but this one is actually connecting to here. So you still have that bay free over here, and you also have what's called a hookup point right here as well. So those are important details for, like, for instance, if you're going to do a DVD player and so on, you're going to have to run the cable over here to SATA connection, which is right here, and you're going to have your power output down here. So those are some important details when you're expanding your chassis into this multimedia footprint. Now, I'm going to check everything here. Yeah, let's see. All right. All right, so I have a slight variation. Easy fix. Swap heat shields. Perfect. Perfect fit. Put this one over here because that's designed for that heat shield. Another little freebie. I did not realize that. That's okay. That's good. Remember that your memory allocation stocks are the same. 4, 4, 3, 3. Yep. That's the memory slot IDs, which are on the plastic feeds. Make sure they match. And here I've got my CPU fan bay. This array is going in now. Alright, everything went in place correctly. I've got the NVMe on board. I have a bootable media. I have taken out the HBA. This is a fiber channel HBA controller. And look at that, that's a Geologic platform. It's a pretty cool little card, but you have to have a SAN network to use it correctly, which we don't. Well, I choose not to have one. I used to have one, but not anymore, so there's no need for it. So with that being the case, now we're set. We have multimedia functionality. We have VGA output now on the front, which we did not. We have USB. We have our secondary USB, and of course our indicator pull-out slot, which is that. And if you notice over here, none of that exists at all. There's nothing over here. There's nothing over here. This is strictly a disk array platform. This guy is more multifunctional, and I have bays for future work if I want to do it that way. But as you can see now, we've changed the CPU configuration, the bay slotting. Our cards are in place now. Everything is better. We still have auxiliary power here, but we have our USB feed out over here. We have our connection set up now over there. We're pretty good. We're up to a point where we can do something pretty sizable. But for now, I'm going to bring this to a closure. Okay, so I thought you guys would like to see this. You saw the part swaps and so on and so on. And I think overall it was fun. It was really enjoyable to do. Um, I'm going to sell this other chassis probably in a garage sale not too far from now. So hope to get $100 for it. Um, it's to recoup some of my money because that's the money I use to bring these videos to your door. With that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I do like the flexibility of the G9. It reminds me a lot of the Dell 720, the R720 DX chassis, which is highly flexible, very much like this. But I want a little bit more extended feature and functionality. The 720 can't do that, so I'm more forced to use it as a disk array solution with a very high-end style slash like mining capacity if I wanted to do that. But for general overall functionality, proxmoxing, and so on, I think this chassis, the Gen 9, is going to be a nice add-on, and I probably am going to add it to the Proxmox model to see how that works. But that's for another time. I will also talk to the 10 gigabit architecture strategy, and that will allow you guys to start to theorize, well, how can I build my backend 10 gig to support my front end? And what are the best ways to do that? Right? So, this is Brad Dyke signing off. God bless. I hope you guys have a great week and take care. Bye bye.